What if the GMC transmission you trust the most is the one most likely to empty your wallet? Not because you abused it, not because you towed beyond the sticker, but because it was born with a weak link that fails like clockwork. Today, I am giving you 3 GMC transmissions that quietly destroy themselves before 200,000 miles, and 4 that can run for 500,000 miles on nothing but the right fluid at the right time. Number 1 on the best list is a transmission people build careers around, and for good reason. But first, I am going to name the one most mechanics recommend as safe, and tell you exactly why I am still careful buying it used. One ground rule: I am not going to invent torque specs, part numbers, or magical fixes. When a spec depends on your exact build, I will tell you how to verify it. Worst number 3 starts as an annoyance. Worst number 2 gets expensive and personal. Worst number 1 crosses into safety. Worst transmission number 3, the 4L60E. This 4-speed automatic showed up in General Motors trucks starting in 1993, and the last ones rolled out in 2013 in half-ton trucks with the 4.3 and 4.8-liter engines. It is the most common transmission I have ever pulled out of a truck. Walk into any independent shop and ask, what is on the lift? 9 times out of 10, it is a 4L60E. This transmission is like a cheap office chair. It feels fine when it is new. Then one day you lean back and the whole thing collapses. No warning, just pain. Here is what kills them in the real world. The 3/4 clutch pack is the weak heart. That is the gear change you use all the time in normal driving. When it starts slipping, it sheds material into the fluid. Now the fluid is no longer a lubricant. It becomes liquid sandpaper, and that contamination accelerates wear everywhere else. Symptoms on a test drive. You roll into the throttle gently at city speed, and the engine revs, but the truck does not pull the way it should. That is flare. Park to drive feels delayed. Reverse is slow to engage. On the highway, it may feel perfectly fine, because dying transmissions love steady cruise right up until they do not. Then there is the sun shell failure. When that stamped steel piece cracks, you lose gears fast. The truck slams, bangs, and suddenly feels like it only has first and second. I am not going to pretend every 4L60E fails the same way, but I see these patterns on the lift constantly. Cost reality. A shop rebuild runs roughly $2,500 to $4,500 depending on region and damage. Do it yourself, and you still pay for a quality kit, fluid, and whatever hard parts got burned. It is rarely cheap once it has been slipping for a while. Quick customer case. A guy brought me his 2007 Sierra with the 5.3-liter engine. Tiny shutter on the 2-3 shift when warm. Dealer told him normal, then quoted him a full rebuild when he pushed back. I pulled the dipstick and the fluid smelled like burnt popcorn. We dropped the pan and the magnet looked like a Chia pet. He drove it another month and lost third, $3,800 at an independent shop. If he had serviced it earlier, he probably would have gotten years more out of it. Takeaway. The 4L60E can survive if you baby it and service it on a real interval, but I do not trust it for heavy work or high miles without proof of care. Fresh fluid means nothing if your transmission has a built-in shutter that keeps coming back no matter what you do. That brings us to worst number 2. The 8L90. The 8L90, specifically in the 2015 through 2019 era, is the 8-speed automatic found in GMC Sierra and Yukon Denali trucks, and it became a public relations headache for GM. If you have never felt converter shudder, let me translate. It feels like driving over rumble strips on a smooth road. Light throttle, steady cruise, and the truck vibrates like the tires suddenly went square. Customers describe it as a vibration, not a shift problem. And that confusion is where money gets wasted. Here's why this one makes me angry. When owners complained, many were told it was normal. Normal. A truck that vibrates at cruise speed. GM eventually acknowledged a specific diagnostic path involving a fluid exchange with the correct specification fluid. But that journey cost a lot of owners time and trust before it ever happened. So what is actually going on? The lockup clutch in the torque converter is applying and releasing in a way that creates a vibration cycle. You can chase tires. You can chase motor mounts. You can chase drive shaft angles. And you can spend a fortune before you accept the problem lives inside the transmission. Here is the trap. Some trucks improve after the proper fluid exchange and relearn procedure. Some do not. Some improve for a while, and then the shudder creeps back. Once a converter has been shuddering long enough, it is like a record player needle dragged across the vinyl. Even if you clean the record, the groove is scarred. A diagnostic story. A customer with a 2016 Sierra Denali came in convinced his rear end was failing. Faint growl, vibration around cruising speed. His dealer had already sold him new tires. Changed nothing. I drove it, felt the rumble strip sensation, and watched it repeat under the same load conditions. We followed the correct fluid path with the right specification fluid, and it improved. He drove it for months happier, but I told him the truth. If it returns, the converter is next. Months later, he was back. The shudder returned. He had the converter replaced at an independent shop. That is not a fun conversation to have twice. And this is not just shop talk. This transmission family has been the subject of class action litigation covering vehicles manufactured between 2015 and March 2019. Over 800,000 owners are covered by certified classes across 26 states. That is not internet drama. That is a federal courtroom. If you are shopping used, do not buy an 8-speed truck based on a salesman telling you it got an update. Updates are not the same as evidence. Ask for service records proving the correct fluid procedure was done. If the seller cannot show that, treat it as a question mark you are paying to answer later. Takeaway. The 8L90 can drive great when it is happy, but when it is not, it turns into a vibration mystery that eats your time, your patience, and your wallet. Now we go from expensive to genuinely scary, because worst number 1 involves a safety recall. Worst transmission, number 1. The 10-speed automatic used in diesel-equipped GM full-size trucks and large sport utility vehicles is tied to a federal safety recall for rear wheel lockup. This is documented. This is not internet chatter. In late 2024, GM recalled over 461,000 diesel-powered vehicles. That includes 2020 through 2022 GMC Sierra, 1,500, 2,500, and 3,500 trucks, plus 2021 GMC Yukon and Yukon XL. Diesel engines only. Gasoline models use a different transmission and are not affected. The problem. A transmission control valve is susceptible to excess wear over time, causing a gradual pressure loss that leads to harsh shifting. In rare cases, during a downshift from 8th gear, the rear wheels can momentarily lock. That is not a comfort issue. That is a control issue. Imagine towing a trailer on the highway and your rear wheels suddenly grab. One owner reported his truck shuddered, downshifted violently while towing 8,000 pounds and nearly jackknifed the trailer. GM identified over 1,800 field reports, 11 accidents, and 3 injuries tied to this condition. They issued a stop sale order on affected inventory. The remedy is a software update that monitors valve wear and detects the problem roughly 10,000 miles before a lockup could occur. Once detected, the transmission limits itself to 5th gear and displays a reduced propulsion warning. That prevents the 8th gear lockup, but it is a band-aid. Replacement valve body parts have been on back order. And here is where the branding confuses people. This 10-speed carries the Allison name, but Allison does not build it. GM manufactures it at their Toledo plant. Allison approved the design and licensed the branding. That matters because the word Allison on the door builds trust that the hardware did not fully earn yet. Dealer markup story. A customer towed in a diesel truck after it started shifting hard and throwing warnings. The dealer quoted a full transmission replacement, a number that made him physically sit down. Before he signed, he called me. We checked the VIN, confirmed it fell into the recall scope, and he went back to get the correct path started at no charge. That is the difference between being informed and being a walking profit margin. If you own one of these trucks, verify by VIN. Do not guess by model year alone. Recalls can be billed date specific. If you are shopping used, insist the remedy is complete and treat harsh shifting as a red flag, not a personality trait. Takeaway. Any transmission tied to a rear wheel lockup recall is not something you shrug at. Verify, confirm, and respect symptoms. If this is helping you avoid buying the wrong truck, hit subscribe. I post real-world GMC ownership advice that dealers do not volunteer because it costs them money. Now let me show you the 4 that actually go the distance. Best transmission. Number 4. The 4L80E. This is the heavy-duty 4-speed that General Motors used in 3/4-ton trucks, 1-ton trucks, vans, and commercial vehicles from 1991 through the 2000s. If the 4L60E is a cheap office chair, the 4L80E is a steel bar stool bolted to the floor. It was built for heavier work from day one. Stronger internals, more capacity, and it does not try to be clever. It just does the job. Keep the fluid clean, keep it cool, and it shows up for work every day. I have seen these go past 300,000 miles on original internals with nothing but pan drop services. A customer bought a 2001 3/4-ton work truck at auction with 210,000 miles. Original 4L80E. He asked me what it needed. I said, change the fluid and the filter and drive it. He is past 330,000 now and still pulling a flatbed trailer every week. That is the whole story. Takeaway. The 4L80E is a workhorse. Feed it clean fluid and it will outlast your patience for driving a truck that old. Best transmission. Number 3. The modern 10-speed in General Motors heavy-duty diesel trucks. Yes, this is the same family I just warned you about. Here's why it still makes the best list. When it is operating correctly, it is strong, smooth, and it keeps the Duramax in the right power band. 10 gears mean lower engine speeds at cruise, less gear hunting under load, and better temperature control when towing. The engineering is sound. The problem was a specific control valve defect, and that is what the recall addresses. So the rule is simple. Do not buy one blind. Verify the VIN for recall status. Confirm the software update is complete. Pay attention to shift quality because it matters. If a seller cannot prove recall completion, walk away. How to make it last? Same boring truth. Heat kills. Dirty fluid kills. Heavy towing on neglected fluid kills. Because this is a complex modern unit, 1 hour of diagnostic time at a good independent shop before you buy is money well spent. Takeaway. The modern heavy-duty 10-speed can be a mileage champion, but only after you confirm recall status and treat harsh shifting as a deal breaker. Best transmission. Number 2. The 6L80. This is the 6-speed automatic found across General Motors, full-size trucks, and SUVs from the late 2000s through the 2010s, including the GMC Sierra and Yukon in many configurations. It replaced the 4L60E starting in 2007, and it was a massive upgrade. This is the one I promised you at the start. The transmission most mechanics recommend, and they are right. It is generally solid when maintained. But here is why I am still cautious buying it used. The 6L80 is a victim of its own reputation. People think it is indestructible. so they do not service it. They drive deep into high mileage on original fluid, then act shocked when shudder appears. In my shop, the pattern is simple: a little vibration at light throttle, a little hesitation, a couple hard shifts when cold. Owners keep driving, keep towing, keep cooking it. Then they show up when the damage has already spread through the valve body and the torque converter. A customer bought a 2015 Yukon because everyone told him the 6-speed was bulletproof. It felt great on the test drive. 2 months later, vibration at cruise. The dealer sold him tires. Vibration stayed. We serviced it properly and it improved, but it did not disappear. He ended up replacing the torque converter. Out of pocket at an independent shop was in the low thousands. He was not angry it needed work. He was angry nobody told him the risk of buying one with no service history. What you check on a test drive: light throttle cruise on smooth pavement, any vibration, any lazy shift that feels like it slips and catches, delayed engagement into drive or reverse. If possible, have an independent shop scan for shift adaptation data. A scan can catch a story the dashboard is not telling you yet. My honest verdict: I like the 6L80 as a design. I do not like buying one used without verified service records. The market treats it like a legend, and legends attract neglect. If the records are there, it is a 300,000-mile transmission. If they are not, you are gambling. Takeaway: the 6L80 can be a high-mileage champion, but only when you buy the right one with proof it was maintained. Best transmission number 1. The Allison 1000, the true Allison-built unit from 2001 through 2019, paired with the Duramax diesel in GMC Sierra, 2,500 heavy-duty, and 3,500 heavy-duty trucks. There is a reason people talk about this transmission like it is a family heirloom. Because for a lot of families, it is. I have customers whose Allison-equipped trucks have been handed down to the next generation with 300,000 miles on them, and the transmission still shifts like it did at 50,000. No drama, no stories, just decades of reliable service. The original 5-speed version ran from 2001 through 2005. In 2006, Allison added a 6th gear with a double overdrive ratio, and that version continued through 2019. These are true Allison-built units, designed and manufactured by Allison Transmission in Indianapolis. Not branded, not licensed, built. Why it lasts. It was designed for sustained load from the beginning. The shift feel is confident. The hardware is not living on the edge every time you pull a trailer, and the aftermarket support is massive because so many of these have been on the road for so long. What you do to hit 500,000 miles is boring. Fluid and filter on a real interval, not a marketing interval. If you tow regularly, shorten it. Heat and load are what age transmission fluid, and lifetime is a warranty word, not a longevity word. If you want this thing to outlast the frame it sits in, you service it like it matters. If you are buying used, the service history is worth more than the badge on the tailgate. A clean record tells you the owner did not ignore symptoms until it was too late. Check for smooth, confident shifts. No slipping, no odd noises. The Allison should lock the converter at highway speed without vibration. If it does, and the records back it up, you are looking at a transmission that will still be shifting when the rest of the truck is tired. The Allison 1000 earned its reputation the old-fashioned way, not with marketing, not with celebrity endorsements, just by showing up and doing the job decade after decade. That is why it is number 1. Here is your buying cheat code. Records beat reputation. A maintained transmission is worth more than a famous name. Avoid high-mileage trucks with the 4L60E transmission unless the price reflects the risk. Be careful with the 2015 through 2019 8-speed transmission unless you have proof it was serviced correctly. Verify recall status on any diesel truck in the affected window. And do not fall in love with the 6L80 badge without seeing paperwork. If you want to know which GMC model years are the best used buys and which ones drain your wallet, watch my buyer guide next.